Wonder Bread's iconic red, yellow, and blue packaging might remind people of childhood lunches, but what it conceals is anything but innocent. Behind its nostalgic branding lies a disturbing reality. This and other mainstream breads are chemical minefields. Potassium bromate, a substance banned in many countries for its potential cancer risks, still finds its way into loaves sold across US supermarkets. If you're tired of being lied to, if you're ready to expose the truth they don't want you to know, then don't just watch. Join this fight. Hit subscribe right now so you never miss the facts the corporations hope you'll ignore. Every new video pulls back the curtain a little more, and together we're building a movement they can't silence. Subscribe, stay informed, and let's take back control, one truth at a time. Then there's glyphosate, a pesticide residue flagged for its endocrine-disrupting properties, lurking in slices labeled as wholesome or natural. With names like Arnold and Wegmans pushing artisan appeal, consumers are unknowingly eating into a dangerous illusion, bread that's more chemistry experiment than food. What's at stake isn't just misleading advertising, it's long-term health. Across 20 heavily scrutinized brands, the evidence piles up. Preservatives like calcium propionate, dough conditioners, artificial whiteners, and emulsifiers dominate ingredient lists, fueling chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and digestive issues. These additives aren't harmless fillers. They're potent agents linked to obesity, high blood pressure, and even cancer. By learning to identify these red flags on packaging and rejecting bread that's been engineered for shelf life instead of nourishment, consumers can reclaim control over what's truly feeding their bodies and what's slowly breaking them down. Let's be blunt, your morning toast, your kid's lunch sandwich, your pre-workout snack, it might be laced with chemicals that don't belong anywhere near your body. The bread aisle in your local supermarket isn't just packed with carbohydrates, it's packed with preservatives, synthetic additives, artificial flavors, and chemical residues that can quietly wreck your health over time. This isn't paranoia, it's fact. More than 80% of commercial bread brands tested in recent lab analyses showed traces of harmful substances: glyphosate, potassium bromate, calcium propionate, synthetic emulsifiers, dough conditioners. And that's just the start. These aren't just weird-sounding ingredients. These are substances with known links to cancer, hormonal disruption, high blood pressure, obesity, insulin resistance, and digestive issues. This is what you're eating. This is what your family is eating. Let's start with glyphosate, the active chemical in Roundup. It's a known endocrine disruptor and probable human carcinogen, but it's still legal in US agriculture and often used in wheat production. Guess what? It doesn't just wash off. Trace residues have been found in brands like Wonder Bread and Sara Lee, which proudly sit on shelves under banners of nostalgia and family tradition. Their bread might remind you of childhood, but it's hiding a chemical cocktail under all that branding. Potassium bromate is banned in Europe, banned in China, banned in India, but in the US, still perfectly legal, still widely used as a flour enhancer to give bread that puffy texture and uniform shape. But this additive has been linked to cancer in animal studies and is considered a possible human carcinogen. It's used in brands like Arnold and Pepperidge Farm, which market themselves as premium and baked fresh. There's nothing fresh about cancer-linked chemicals being used to fluff up your sandwich roll. Calcium propionate is another synthetic preservative to watch out for. It extends shelf life, which is great for profits, but not so great for your gut. Studies suggest it can cause gastrointestinal irritation, and when consumed regularly, it may even affect behavior and neurological health, especially in children. Brands like Nature's Own, Franz, and Sunbeam rely on this additive to keep bread soft and mold-free for weeks. You might want to ask yourself, why is that loaf still squishy after 10 days on the counter? And let's talk about emulsifiers and dough conditioners, terms that sound harmless but are anything but. These include chemicals like mono and diglycerides, date M, and azotocarbonamide. Yep, the same compound once used in yoga mats. These substances aren't there for your benefit. They're used to speed up industrial production, improve texture, and extend shelf life. Brands like Oro Wheat, Sara Lee, and Great Value use them routinely cleanly. You're not buying food, you're buying engineered shelf-stable bread with synthetic shortcuts baked in. This is where the deception kicks in. The packaging says artisan, it says natural, it says multigrain, but when you flip the loaf over and read the ingredients, the truth hits hard. Long chemical names, added sugars, enzyme blends, artificial coloring, preservatives, whiteners, bleached flour stripped of nutrients, and refortified with synthetic vitamins just to meet the legal minimum. That's not nourishment, that's factory bread with a paint job. Even store brands aren't exempt. Wegmans, Kroger, Walmart's Great Value, all guilty. Their whole wheat or healthy multigrain options are often nothing more than refined flour mixed with molasses to give the illusion of whole grains, and the ingredient lists, often loaded with sodium, added sugars, and mystery additives that do nothing but confuse and mislead. This goes deeper than labeling tricks. Many of these brands fail to disclose whether their enzymes are derived from animal products or genetically modified sources. Some loaves contain trace pesticides from non-organic wheat. Some include dough conditioners, banned in other countries. Others load their bread with high sodium content, sky-high levels that fuel hypertension and cardiovascular issues when eaten regularly. And yet, they sit in the healthy choice aisle. Let's be clear, most store-bought bread is no longer food. It's a performance product designed for appearance, shelf life, and texture. Nutrition comes second, health comes last. The primary goal is profits, and if that means spiking a loaf with synthetic preservatives, cheap flour, and whitening agents, so be it. The consumer won't notice, at least, not until they're dealing with chronic health problems years down the line. Deceptive marketing plays a huge role. Brands like Arnold and Pepperidge Farm lean heavily into words like classic, country, or old-fashioned, but there's nothing old-fashioned about a list of 20-plus ingredients in a simple loaf of bread. If your great-grandparents wouldn't recognize the ingredients, it's not traditional. It's corporate food science in a nostalgic wrapper. And then there's the issue of bleached flour. Bread made with bleached flour has had its natural nutrients chemically stripped out, and then it's artificially enriched with synthetic additives to replace what was destroyed in processing. That's like burning down your house and taping a cardboard box over the hole. Brands like Sara Lee and Wonder Bread rely on bleached, enriched flour, and they've been doing it for decades, banking on consumer trust while stuffing their loaves with chemical nonsense. High fructose corn syrup still shows up in many mainstream breads, too. It spikes your blood sugar, promotes insulin resistance, and contributes to the obesity crisis, but it's cheap, and it extends shelf life. That's the common theme here. Cheap shortcuts, long shelf life, and health be damned. Brands like Bimbo, Sunbeam, and Nature's Own regularly include added sugars to improve taste and shelf appeal. It's bread, not candy, but you wouldn't know it by the sugar content. Even breads labeled as keto, low carb, or gluten-free aren't automatically better. Many of these options use highly refined starches, synthetic fiber additives, and sugar alcohols to simulate the texture of bread without the carbs. The result? A chemically engineered product loaded with mystery ingredients and zero nutritional value. Just because it fits your diet doesn't mean it's good for your health. Here's the bottom line. You have to read the labels every single time. Look for short ingredient lists, whole grains, no preservatives, no artificial colors, no weird chemical names you can't pronounce. Real bread doesn't need a paragraph-long ingredient list. It needs flour, water, yeast, salt, and maybe a bit of oil or natural sweetener. That's it. Anything more, and you're probably looking at a lab experiment in loaf form. The bread industry banks on your trust. It banks on your busy schedule. It banks on you not having the time or knowledge to decode ingredient lists and chemical additives. But now you know. Now you've seen the truth behind the packaging. These 20 bread brands, from Wonder to Sara Lee, from Bimbo to Pepperidge Farm, from Great Value to Arnold, are not doing you any favors. They're loading up your diet with synthetic junk and calling it wholesome. Your best defense is awareness. Don't fall for the front of package lies. Flip it over. Read the ingredients. Watch for the red flags: glyphosate, potassium bromate, calcium propionate, dough conditioners, added sugars, bleached flour, artificial colors. If it sounds synthetic, it probably is. And if the label is vague or confusing, that's no accident. It's designed to keep you guessing. You deserve better. Your body deserves better. Your family deserves better. But choosing bread that's natural, minimally processed, and free from harmful additives isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's how you protect your health from the inside out. Real food heals, chemical bread harms. The choice is yours, but the consequences are real. If this breakdown helped you rethink what's in your kitchen, do yourself and someone you care about a favor. Hit that like button. Share this video with friends and family who need to know the truth. Drop a comment below and let us know which brand shocked you the most. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another deep dive into what's really going on in our food system. Stay informed, stay healthy, stay sharp. Let's keep going, because this isn't just about avoiding 20 bad bread brands. It's about exposing the entire ecosystem that makes this chemical storm possible. We're not just talking about individual companies making poor ingredient choices. We're talking about a food industry that has normalized toxic shortcuts, regulatory agencies that look the other way, and a marketing machine designed to keep consumers in the dark. How did we get here? Decades ago, bread was baked fresh daily. It had 4 or 5 ingredients, no preservatives, no dough softeners, no synthetic emulsifiers to keep it fluffy for weeks. It went stale in 2 days. That's what real food does. But as the industry scaled up, everything changed. Bread became a mass-market commodity. Shelf life became king. Texture and appearance became non-negotiable. And chemicals became the solution. So brands caved. They sacrificed nutrition for convenience. They leaned into lab-created ingredients that could guarantee uniform loaves and maximum freshness, even if it meant introducing substances now linked to cancer, hormone disruption, and metabolic disease. Look at the numbers. Chronic illnesses like diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and autoimmune disorders have skyrocketed in parallel with the rise of ultra-processed foods. And bread, seemingly innocent, supposedly staple bread, has been at the center of it all. It's in every home, it's eaten daily, and in most cases, it's laced with the same industrial chemicals found in frozen pizza dough, fast food buns, and yes, yoga mats. Still think a little won't hurt? Try that logic with potassium bromate. This flour improver is banned in the European Union, the UK, Canada, Brazil, and China. Why? Because it's a probable human carcinogen. Yet in the US, it's allowed to stay because the FDA assumes that baking the bread will reduce the chemical to safe levels. But tests have shown that residues can remain, especially in undercooked or toasted products. So why are brands like Arnold, Sara Lee, and King's Hawaiian still allowed to use it? Why is this gamble on consumer safety even on the table? And then there's glyphosate, one of the most widely used herbicides on the planet. It's sprayed on wheat crops just before harvest as a drying agent. It doesn't just vanish, it seeps into the grain. It ends up in your bread. It's been found in dozens of popular brands, yet the FDA doesn't require companies to disclose its presence. That's not just negligence, that's betrayal. We also need to talk about sodium. One slice of standard sandwich bread can pack up to 200 milligrams of sodium. Eat a sandwich, and you've already consumed nearly 20% of your recommended daily limit without even reaching for the salt shaker. Excess sodium contributes to high blood pressure, heart disease, and kidney damage. Yet most mainstream brands continue to crank up the salt to mask the blandness of over-processed flour. Nature's Own, Wonder, Sara Lee, they all do it, not because it's good for you, but because it's good for their bottom line. Then we get to added sugars. Yes, sugar in your bread. It's in there for flavor, but also to feed yeast and speed up fermentation, and it's everywhere. Fructose, corn syrup, molasses, dextrose, cane sugar. Even brands labeled whole grain or healthy often contain several grams per slice. That adds up. Sugar spikes your blood glucose, increases fat storage, promotes inflammation, and worsens insulin resistance. But the worst part? You might not even realize you're eating it. Sunbeam Bunny Bread, Bimbo, and even healthier sounding brands like Aroeat and Dave's Killer Bread use sugar as a staple ingredient. Dave's in particular markets itself as organic and clean, but some of their loaves still sneak in 5 grams of sugar per slice. Multiply that by 2 or 3 slices, and you're essentially having dessert with your lunch. Another ingredient that deserves the spotlight, azodicarbonamide. This one got famous thanks to a viral report a few years back. It's used to bleach flour and condition dough, but it also happens to be the same compound used in industrial foam production for yoga mats and shoe soles. The World Health Organization has linked it to respiratory issues, yet many American bread manufacturers still use it because it makes bread puffier and whiter. Subway removed it under pressure, others not so much. Bimbo, Great Value, and some white breads still sneak it in. And that brings us to enzymes. They sound harmless, they're even labeled as natural, but what the packaging doesn't tell you is that many commercial bread enzymes are derived from animal sources or genetically engineered microbes, and since enzymes are considered processing aids, manufacturers aren't required to list their sources. That's a problem for vegetarians, people with allergies, religious dietary restrictions, or anyone who just wants to know what they're eating. The truth is, you shouldn't need a chemistry degree or a magnifying glass to understand your bread, but that's what the industry has forced you into. Ingredient labels are cluttered with scientific jargon, misleading names, and half-truths. They throw around buzzwords like artisan, farmhouse, and natural, while loading loaves with lab-developed stabilizers and preservatives. It's not just misleading, it's manipulation. And the regulators, the FDA, allows many of these substances because of outdated studies, industry pressure, or insufficient data on long-term effects. That means the burden falls on you, the consumer, to protect yourself, to read every label, to research every additive, to question every health claim. And that's exhausting, but necessary, because the stakes are high. We're talking about chemicals that can alter your hormones, raise your blood pressure, damage your gut, and increase your cancer risk. We're talking about bread, one of the most basic foods in the human diet, being hijacked by corporations with zero regard for your long-term health. So what's the alternative? Real bread, simple bread, made with ingredients you can pronounce. Look for loaves with 5 ingredients or fewer, organic whole grains, no preservatives, no dough conditioners, no bleached flour, no added sugar. Sprouted grain breads are a great option. Sourdoughs, made through natural fermentation, or bake your own. It's cheaper than you think, and at least you control what goes in. Support local bakeries that bake fresh daily without shortcuts. Choose brands that disclose their ingredients clearly and transparently. Watch for certified organic, non-GMO labels, but even then, don't rely solely on the front of the packaging. Always flip it over. Always read the back. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. You're not going to drop dead from one slice of commercial bread, but years of repeated exposure, day after day, meal after meal, to glyphosate, potassium bromate, calcium propionate, artificial colors, emulsifiers, and added sugars. That adds up. That wears your system down. That contributes to the slow, silent development of chronic illness that too many people chalk up to aging or bad luck. Don't accept it. You have the power to push back, to say no, to choose real food, and to demand better from the companies that feed us, because they won't change until they're forced to, until consumers stop accepting chemical bread disguised as tradition, until we stop buying nostalgia and start demanding transparency. This isn't about fear, it's about facts. It's about informed choices. You deserve to know what's in your food. You deserve to eat food that supports your health, not slowly sabotages it. Let's keep going, because 20 bad bread brands aren't just accidents. They are the direct result of a broken system, a system where shelf life matters more than your lifespan, where profits come before public health, where food is manufactured, not made, and bread, the most basic, essential, historical human staple, has become one of the most deceptively toxic foods in your kitchen. How did we go from 4 simple ingredients, flour, water, yeast, salt, to a chemical soup of 30+ unpronounceable additives? Because corporations figured out that chemicals are cheaper than care. It's cheaper to throw in calcium propionate, than to lose profit to mold. It's cheaper to bleach the flour white and then refortify it with synthetic vitamins than to use real whole grains, and it's more convenient to stretch shelf life with emulsifiers than to deal with spoilage. The cost, your health. These are not maybe risks. These are known links to serious conditions: obesity, hormone imbalance, insulin resistance, inflammation, cardiovascular problems, and gut issues. And yet, millions of people eat these breads daily, unaware, not because they don't care, but because they're not told the truth. Because nobody's standing in the bread aisle yelling, "Hey, this one's loaded with glyphosate and potassium bromate, so let's be loud about it now." Bimbo, Wonder, Sara Lee, Pepperidge Farm, Arnold, Nature's Own, Oro Eat, Great Value, Sunbeam, Franz, Bunny Bread, King's Hawaiian, Wegmans, Kroger, Aldi's store brands, even some health food brands, like Dave's Killer Bread, or Ezekiel. Yes, even those can be part of the problem when they sneak in sugar or use ambiguous labeling. This is not a fringe issue. This is the mainstream bread market. And don't let the organic stamp fool you, unless the entire ingredient list backs it up. Some brands throw in one organic ingredient and slap the word natural across the front. That doesn't mean anything. Natural has no legal definition in most food marketing. And artisan, don't even get me started. If it's coming out of a factory that makes 200,000 loaves a day, there's nothing artisan about it. You deserve better. You deserve transparency. You deserve food that fuels your body instead of exhausting your organs. You deserve bread that nourishes instead of deceives. And it starts with awareness, reading the label, knowing the red flags, calling out the marketing lies, choosing differently, at the store, at the table, every single time. The more of us who refuse to accept chemically engineered bread as normal, the faster this system breaks. The more we demand clean, transparent ingredients, the faster companies are forced to listen. They can change, but they won't until we stop buying the lies. So stay alert, stay pissed off, stay loud, and if this has changed the way you look at that harmless loaf in your pantry, hit like, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to know what's really in their bread. Make sure you subscribe, so we can keep exposing the truth they don't want you to hear, because once you know, you can't go back, and you shouldn't.